We're updating you on construction and refurb projects going on around the Disneyland Resort, and there is something happening at nearly every parking lot. Disneyland Hotel, Mickey and Friends, and Toy Story. We're going to tell you all about it. We're also going to tell you what's going on at Soarin Around the World, the Matterhorn, Pixie Hollow, and lots more. So let's get started with something that caught my eye when I parked this morning at the Pixar Palace parking structure. I always prefer parking on that far wall of the Pixar Palace parking structure, and on this morning it gave me a very interesting view of something happening down there at that's the Disneyland Hotel parking lot to the right there behind that sign. And it looked to me like from this distance, that they had dug it up, that they were bringing up all that blacktop. So I said, I got to go investigate. I got to get down there on the ground and check things out. This is the bridge connecting Pixar Palace parking structure with downtown Disney and all that. Nothing to see from here. So we'll have to get all the way down on the ground, walk it in to the guest parking lot, and that's where we're at the Disneyland Hotel. And what I found, it wasn't exactly, they haven't dug it up. I mentioned this in our Instagram post. It looks more like, rather than dug up, it's been, I don't know what the word is, it's like been ground. That top layer has been ground, and this is something that you see when they are preparing to resurface a blacktop, like a street or a parking lot in this case. It's not been dug up. It looked like dirt from that top view, but it is just that top surface. So this is most likely nothing urgent or newsworthy per se, but simply a resurfacing of that blacktop. Now this alerted me because this is a space that is one of those areas that is subject to being updated with Disneyland Forward, like that's going to become theme park someday, or at least something like that, part of a theme park process that's happening at the downtown Disney parking lot. And this would be way too early for them to start working on that kind of stuff, which made me second guess, what could they be doing? So I tempered my expectations on anything Disneyland Forward related, only to have those expectations changed again. And we're going to talk about that later on. When we get to the Toy Story parking lot, something has happened there as well that may change our minds on the actual progress of what's happening with Disneyland Forward. But for now, we're going to go into the park. We're going to go to DCA, where I found last week I reported no problem. Crowds are easy. It's easy to get into the park. This is at the same time this Friday. It's a little after 9 a.m. And look at this crowd waiting to get in. It actually took a little while too. So jury is still out on how things are going out there in the main entrance. We'll go to Soarin. Now, you may have noticed, Soarin is going through some things. There have been some incredibly long wait times. And it's been due to the fact that they're running just one screen. Normally they run two. If they run just one screen, that means your wait times will be doubled. And it's been this way for a little while. And as I have learned, it's going to be that way for a little while longer still. It doesn't show up on the refurb calendar because it's technically open. So we haven't had any idea of the time frame. But I've been advised it's going to be like this until at least July, probably a week into July or so. And what they're doing is, it's twofold. They are installing the new scene with Paris, the new Paris scene with the Eiffel Tower. That's already happened. Actually, if you go in now in the screen you see, I believe you will see the new Paris scene. I haven't had a chance to get in there because I will not wait 2 hours for Soarin. I haven't had a chance to get in there, but they're doing that. So that's happening. They finished one screen. They're now working on the second screen. They are also updating all of the safety restraints, the seat belts. They're making it a lot more simpler for guests to understand how to fasten them because, as you may or may not know, there's a lot of attractions, Mission Breakout, Star Tours, Soarin. The seatbelts, people are often confused. Do I go left to right or right to left? I think they're making it a little bit more apparent, and it's just going to be the one seatbelt as opposed to maybe having to do the loop through the thing. In any case, that's one of the reasons why they have to close the entire theater, the entire screen, in order to update this attraction. Plus, there's a recalibration required of the projection on the screen in order to show the new Paris scene correctly. Having said that, long story short, no more leaning Eiffel Tower and new seat belts. Look for this to take another, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks is my guess. I mean, you really gotta love, you really gotta love Soarin to go in that 80-minute queue and wait, because what's the launch to launch time? I don't know if I measured it, launch to launch at Soarin, but it's gotta be 7 or 8 minutes at least, right? So you just stand there in that queue for 7 or 8 minutes and do nothing while you wait for the next cycle of guests to get into their Soarin erector set vehicles. Incredible. I mean, it's a fun ride. It's a popular ride. Not my favorite, but I get why people like it. But man, you really gotta want to go. I just want to make sure that people understand, just like Mission Breakout, what you're up against. For at least another couple of weeks, possibly longer into July, one screen. There's one screen. And that's, just be prepared. Set the expectation, right? Know what you're getting into. You're not going to get a discount at Soarin. While we're in the neighborhood, we'll stop by Grand Californian. Liz and I and Sophie were just there a couple days ago. We just put a video out on our stay at the Grand Californian, had a wonderful time. Didn't get to do a lot of construction recon while we were there because we were mostly in the park, but here's an update on how things are looking. Construction walls are still up. Scrim is still up over there. That's above. That scrim is on the outside of the Hearthstone. I've been advised that it's the seating area on like the 3rd floor up there that is being expanded. That's the area that's being expanded. It could still be a little bit of Hearthstone as well, but that's the space that's being worked on right now. Is that, I think it's like the 3rd or 4th floor up there where they do wedding receptions, etc. Otherwise, things look about as they have the past few weeks inside the hotel. We'll go to Mater's next, where we can see walls are down throughout the attraction, both sides, left and right. However, when we were here, it was just the left side still operational. I'm not sure if this was an ongoing thing, where they're still working on the right side, but you can see that there's some maintenance crews out there on the right side of Mater's. The walls are down, but it's not open. I expect this will probably be resolved. If it wasn't already on this day, it'll be resolved very, very soon. So look for full operation at Mater's. Not so much at Mission Breakout, our weekly update on how things are going. We're running two elevators out of 3. And sometimes it's 1, which makes things really dirty. On this day, we were 2 out of 3. And what the good news is that there's been a permit, or I should say a permit has been marked as completed as per Theme Park IQ. He noted this, that's for the elevator B, for Bravo. That's done. So Bravo's done. So we should expect in the near future to see the middle elevator back in operation, but that does not mean, I don't think, from what I'm being told by outside sources, that does not mean it's done. They're just going to move on to the next elevator. And I believe Charlie's going to go through another refurb. I'm not sure what it was before. They had done one earlier. I don't know if that was Alpha or Charlie, but whatever 3rd one they still have to do, I think they're going to be doing that one next. So we're going to be staying on 2 elevators out of 3. And then when those are done, there's another round of updates that have to be done to the actual ride vehicle itself, as I understand it. So while we're hoping that this gets resolved quickly, as mentioned, sources are telling me that this is going to probably last until the summer. That is how I found the queue on this day. Standby is sticking out. This is though because they haven't extended things inside, but that's a pretty healthy queue. That's a 50-minute queue. That actually shot up a little bit later in the day. You should expect to find a minimum 50 minutes is a discount at Mission Breakout right now. Just a heads up for those going to the park and they really want to ride Mission Breakout. Just a heads up. 50 minutes is about as low as you're going to find that attraction, and that's from early on in the morning and throughout the day. Across the way, we'll check in on that construction, the bathroom being constructed along that path between Cars Land, Luigi's, and Avengers Campus. We've got some new equipment on the scene. Similar to what we saw a few weeks ago, it's difficult to say what exactly. There's some kind of pump there. That gray pump there is happening. There's 2 separate vehicles or machine types that are happening here. There's the gray thing on the left and the white thing on the right. My guess, although I'm not sure the timing, this could be for a concrete pour, but we may not be at the right time for that. You can hear it working though. You could hear it working really hard, which we're going to get a better listen, I think, from the other side. So we'll switch over to the Avengers Campus side. Now we're looking at the opposite side of that fence towards Cars Land and Luigi's, and you can kind of see it over that blue wall as well. The view here is actually worse than it is from the Cars Land side. There's you can vaguely see the gray pump there on the right about in the middle of the frame right now. Trying to zoom in to see if I can't define it, but it's in the back section of there, which is about where the foundation would be, I would think, for the restroom. And we'll try to peek through the scrim there. You can hear it though. You can definitely hear what's happening there, and I don't know if you can identify what kind of machine that is based on the sound. I'm not positive. As a matter of fact, we should get on the Pixar Pal Around to see if we can get another view of that on the way up. We'll just take a quick look at what is the proposed landing space for the Coco Dark Ride. No movement there backstage as of yet. No movement in terms of moving vehicles around or anything being cleared of that space. And obviously no movement of the demo. That's going to be a while. But across the way, I noticed some construction at a rather important site. This is on Harbor and Catella. That used to be a Coco's. That was a Coco's that never reopened post-COVID. This place has not been open for years, but it looks like it's going through it's getting a remodel. That is the location. It used to be a Coco's, but before that, it was a mom and pop bakery. It was not a big chain bakery, but just a mom and pop shop. That's where the name Fresh Baked came from. I used to drive by this place all the time, and they had a sign that said Dakem Fresh Bailey. They would switch the D and the B of those two words. Instead of Baked Fresh Daily, they said Dakem Fresh Bailey. And I always thought that was clever. And when I was thinking of the name of the channel, I thought back to that sign that I used to pass by all the time, and that's where we came up with Fresh Baked, Baked Fresh Daily. That's the location. It's kind of wild to see that now from this site. Getting a remodel years and years later. We don't know what it's going to become. But I had a little fond remembrance as I was up there on the Pixar Pal Around. Let's get back to work and take a look at what's happening backstage behind for Avengers Campus e-ticket. There's not a lot of action here. It looks a lot like it did in previous weeks. The land clearing, or I should say the grading, the dirt grading is becoming more and more finished to the point where it feels like we may be just a few weeks away for them to start setting foundation and doing that sort of stuff, getting into the Indiana Jones phase of things. Although we can't see anything yet. We've only seen the retaining walls from the side view of this site, which it looks the same this week as it did last. So no movement there as well. So not a lot to report on, but I feel like we're getting close to that stage of things. I'm thinking maybe just a few weeks away. Let's take a look at the Cozy Cones next. And there's that. You can see the gray pump there again, facing left, and wherever that white truck is. But we can't really tell much from here either. Trying as hard as I can. It's the Badger Company, we know that, but it doesn't really say the Badger Company is doing this thing. So we can't tell what possible thing. I mean, man, this is so difficult. So difficult. There's so much trees and coverage there that we can't really tell what they're doing. But I will say this. There's still a lot of debris back there. I don't see any sort of place where they could be pouring concrete. So I would have to say this is more likely something besides that. This could be more of where they're trying to actually clean out. They're trying to vacuum out debris or something from a space that it's difficult to get into. I'm leaning in that direction. With that, let's get back on Harbor Boulevard. I mentioned before the story about what's happening at the Disneyland Hotel parking lot. It's just being resurfaced. Not a lot to get excited about, even though in my mind I was like, this is it. This is it. But it's not. It's not it. But if we go to the Toy Story parking lot, you may or may not recall that Toy Story is a major component of the Disneyland Forward expansion. But everybody wants to make this a third gate. It's not going to be a third gate. The concept art that Disney provided, that concept art clearly shows that it's not a theme park, but a hotel with some retail. It's kind of Disney Springs, but even better, I think, because the hotel they're going to make it more theme park-like and not just a shopping district. So, and I think that's the reason why they're doing this and Downtown Disney. But anyway, I digress. What we're going to show you is brought to you by the Fresh Baked Street Team. We had a fan of the show getting a tour of a timeshare, and we got this great view. What you're looking at here is from Catella. I'm not sure which hotel or exactly where this shot from. The forward parking lot, that's the bullseye lot. The rear parking lot was actually not any of that. It's cast member space on the other side of those trees, and where that white covered area is cast member parking, and then to the right is the bus drop off and where guests get on the Toy Story buses. All that is to establish where we are at the Toy Story parking lot, but we're going to focus on that mound over there that is being covered by something. Not sure what. Could be some kind of soil work, could be something that they're doing to the concrete surface, some kind of remediation, treatment. I'm not sure what, but this location where they're doing this is definitely removed from the proper work site where they would be building something. And it could be, I believe this to be a very early first step in terms of getting crews out there, because they're not going to build in this spot, but they may want to build or start working on a place for like operational, uses, a home base, as it were, for the future project. Where it's located is much too close to the residential zoning, and this is the reason why we're not going to be seeing a theme park here, because on those tree lines that you see to the left and behind the parking structures, to the left and behind the parking lot, just on the other side of those trees is residential homes. These are literal homes where people live. And Anaheim has, ordinances that require that there be a certain amount of buffer zones for noise ordinance. And so it shrinks dramatically the effective size of what you can build in that space, because you can't just put a theme park right up against, you can't put a chiller plant right next to a residential home. Can't work. So the space was already a little too small to begin with. It makes it even more small. But that's the kind of space where you can start. Where you see that blue bus there in the back corner, that's an extended lot that they have not used forever, basically. You never see cars parked there. Same for that sort of curved area in the middle right of the frame. And then obviously where the other cars are in the middle of the frame, that's all cast member parking, buses and guests to the right. This is well removed from all of that, and I do have a good feeling that this could be, I'm reasonably optimistic that this could be the very, very early beginnings of something happening at the Toy Story parking lot. I will certainly listen to any construction experts out there, or people who are more familiar with what the operational process might be, what the order of operations might be, and how that fits in. But I don't think it's nothing. I'll say that. I don't think it's nothing. Just where I did think that the Disneyland Hotel surface is nothing, I'm not so sure that this is nothing. And we've got a third parking structure story to update you on, which I also don't think is nothing. That's going to be happening at the Pixar Palace parking structure and Mickey and Friends. We'll get to that also in a little bit. But for now, we're going to get back to Disneyland and check out the Matterhorn, where significantly less activity has been present at this time, although I'm here at a different time of day than I was last week. But where we saw a lot of guys working and a lot of things happening, not so much this week. The scrim and scaffold are still up around the waterfalls. However, there's no active work being done there. We can't really tell what they're up to. But it's not like we could tell what they were doing when they were present either. Just know that this is an ongoing situation, and we still do not yet have a date. Things are pretty static. And as I mentioned last week, my guess is we are just about halfway through. So I'm looking for another month. Oh, there's a guy. We found a guy. Don't know what he's doing. But yeah, so I'm looking at something like another month and a half probably for this before we see this completed. But we can get on the monorail, because this is the best view of, this is where we'll catch anything at all, if we're going to catch anything. There's a lot of movement down there. There's some crew down there actually on that space. A lot more movement than we saw here in previous weeks on the ground, on the tracks there where the bobsleds return, but nothing that I can identify. And then there's the main entrance, the threshold to Matterhorn. That's just getting paint and polished is all that is. I don't see that they are building anything new or updating anything, visibly. Passing by the trees, there's the queue space, the covered queue, and the control tower in the middle. Looks to be, did they take down the, yeah, it looks to be about as we left it. The track, okay, so the track looks, it's in about the same condition. There was the transfer track, the one right there in the middle. That wasn't there previously, but it looks like that's still normal looking. Water is still drained. No crew on the track anywhere that I can see. No crew down there in that little tunnel, which was a typical place where we've been finding them. Lots of scaffolding, lots of orange cones and tape, safety tape. Boy, I miss the Matterhorn. There are things I want to do that I can't do until the Matterhorn comes back, too. I'm working on a stacking video for Lightning Lane. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't make that video until the Matterhorn is here, until the Matterhorn is back. They got to finish this so I can include that in my video. But yeah, no crew on site visible here. Nothing happening that I can tell. But we're definitely not done. Here we go. There's some crew. Okay. I wish I could get a little close, further. I want to see the. Oh, look at that. There's some steel. There's something on the track. This is track related. I have to say that, although I don't think they're replacing the track in so much as people want it to be because it's, bumpy or rough or old. I don't think that's what's happening, but what they are doing is related to the track itself as opposed to the actual structure, although it could be that as well. These things could be related, but I'm not so. It does look like they are focusing in a lot of areas on the actual track and perhaps how it's integrated with the steel structure of the mountain itself. And that's the current state of the Matterhorn. Let's get into Fantasyland. Lots of exciting updates happening here at the Disneyland Resort, although things are going pretty well. We're going to start hitting a higher speed come January, but what's actually going to pop very soon is Walt Disney World. We're going to be going over there. We're taking our show, our construction updates, to Walt Disney World as well. Hopefully you guys are interested in that. We're going to have those videos, those reports, both here, at least for a little while on this show, at the end of the show, at the back end of the construction report. And we'll be doing that when we get back in July. Then we're also going to be sending those directly to Fresh Baked WDW. Now, if you are somebody who likes to go back and forth between the coasts, like I am desiring to be at the moment, and you want some help helping you plan those trips, to schedule those trips, to give you some intelligence on the best way to navigate Walt Disney World, or if you're from the other coast and when it comes to Disneyland, I respectfully request that you use our travel affiliate, GetAwayToday. They are the best. We love them. They have been so kind to us over the years and have been, as has been reported to us by other referrals that we've sent them, they're very kind to their customers as well. And again, very knowledgeable. They really know what they're doing, and they will take care of you. There's a link in the description. Use that link to book your trip through Getaway, and that way we get affiliated with them, which is great for us, and it's great for you, and it's great for them. Win, win, win. We love it. We hope you guys have a great trip wherever it is that you go, be that here or in Walt Disney World. And we're going to go to Pixie Hollow, where last week we saw that the walls were down. This week the walls are down, and they've put the water back. The water is back at Pixie Hollow in the lagoon, and it looks beautiful. I want to go swimming in this space. I really do. But yeah, Pixie Hollow, the water's back at Pixie Hollow. Everything looks to be pretty nice, actually. It looks really, really good. The only thing that's not happening really are those water effects where they shoot the water from those little holes right there in the rocks. Those a stream of water shoots out of that hole, flies across the little walkway, the little bridge, and they land in little receiving areas in the rockwork on the other side. It's really cute, really fun, but it doesn't appear to be functioning still. They haven't got that working, but I'm sure by the time we open this space later this month, they'll be operational. And here again, we're trying to see if we can find any sort of clue as to what they're doing on that path that runs alongside the leaves of grass that create the perimeter for the meet and greet, for the Pixie Hollow meet and greet. These scrims were not present before. The first time the walls were up before, when when those were done, we were able to walk into that space. We cannot walk there now. So I'm pretty sure there's something happening there. What that is, still too early to say. Let's go to Adventureland, check in on the Tiki Room. We have a reopening date of July 2nd. No, make that July 3rd. We should be seeing the reopening. We're going to be there to check out what's happening there. We're going to watch the pre-show to see what's going on in Tangaroa and to see what updates have been made inside the attraction. But it's nothing visible over the fence at the time, or at this time. Tiki Room looks to be done, just not yet open. Here's a surprise. We're going to kind of segue quickly over to Galaxy's Edge because I was kind of wrapping up my coverage. But as I was walking through Galaxy's Edge just to see if there's anything happening here, I did find Rey, Chewie, and Vi Marathi. This is something that I have been asking for. We did a State of Disneyland report a few months ago where I said there should be more happening inside Galaxy's Edge. It's very quiet, and we do have the Chewie thing. You can see them. You can see Rey walking around, but there are areas of this space that look like they were supposed to have some kind of activity. And we saw it when the Galaxy's Edge first opened. We saw them up here. Haven't seen them there for years. But there they are, Rey, Chewie, and Vi. I don't know if this is isolated. I don't know if this is a new development. I feel like I'm walking through Galaxy's Edge every day. So it could be that they have been doing this. I've just never seen it. This is the first time I've seen Rey, Chewie, or Vi up by this ship. This is across from Rise of the Resistance. First time I've seen them there a couple years at least. It's been a couple years at least since I've seen them. So that's very exciting. I'm hoping this is the beginning of more activity in Galaxy's Edge. We're going to go to Ray's Berets next. Just to kind of update you, the grass has not been resolved. This used to be a very lush, when it was the Breuer patch, the grass was very lush, very green, very tall. And they attempted to do that again. We saw grass growing here, and then it quickly started to die. I don't know what happened. My guess is that, well, I don't know. It's hard to say, but something has happened here at Ray's Berets where the grass was not able to grow and it quickly died. I don't know if that's because it's not getting enough water, if there's an issue with the irrigation, the sprinklers that are installed there, or if it's because the soil wasn't prepared correctly, because there's a lot of layers to this. It's not, you don't just put sod on a roof and expect grass to grow. There's many layers to this, so it could be that they may have missed a step. I'm not sure. I'm very curious about this because it was so beautiful. That grass was so beautiful, and I want Ray's Berets to thrive. I want that grass to come back because it was such a beautiful thing to see. I'm rooting for you. Ray. Let's get your grass situation figured out. They did figure out the water at Big Thunder. You can see the frothy water moving around again. That's because the waterfall is back on. Thank goodness. That was just a temporary thing that they got to work on. And hopefully this is a final solution or final fix to the Big Thunder waterfall. Meanwhile, at Big Thunder, we have a new permit. A new permit has been filed maybe about a week ago by the time you see this. Tenant improvement. Remove and replace equipment to be anchored. Anchored is a key term there because that means it's something substantial. It's not just a small thing. They're going to install fall protection and rock work. It's interesting that they put those two things together. I don't know if they're related necessarily. The rock work is obviously guest facing. That's something visible. Then they're going to install rock work, which means rock work that wasn't there before. And how that relates to fall protection, which is cast member safety. So it's a place where cast members are going to be going and working on, perhaps, or that are going to. Is that fascinating? Where do rock work and fall protection meet? Where do those things meet? And I'm making that connection because it's in the same install fall protection and rock work statement. That fascinates me. New electrical infrastructure throughout. That sounds extensive. With electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. Mechanical and plumbing. Oh, they don't mean throughout the entire attraction. They mean through the area where the equipment is going to be replaced and anchored, the area where there is fall protection, the area where there's rock work. There's also going to be new electrical infrastructure throughout with electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. This is a big deal. It's not the entire attraction. It's a focused space. It's got to be something new. What could that be? I'm fascinated. I don't know now. There's no Big Thunder refurb on the calendar as of yet. Big Thunder has not appeared on the refurb calendar yet. But it's sometimes the case where Disney will announce a thing, before it shows up on the calendar. So we'll keep our eyes and ears open for that. What this could mean, I don't know if you have to shut down the attraction for this. I don't. But I would think probably or possibly. We'll stay tuned. Speaking of permits, before we get on with what else is happening at Disneyland, speaking of permits, we have a new permit for Goofy Sky School. Tenant improvement, install steel beam for connection of new net covering. What that is that thing we've been waiting for. Every now and then we stop by. You guys have seen those construction walls we've been showing you at Paradise Garden. That's what this is for. They're going to build the steel beam to begin installing the new net. The new net that they're doing is to catch anything that falls off of Goofy Sky School. Guests lose their stuff when they make those wild U-turns. Things fall out and they land in that area of Paradise Garden. So it looks like we're finally going to get some movement on that project. So look for a steel beam there, and probably another one to, probably 4 of them. I think that require, a bunch of different posts for that in order to install the new net. So that's great news. More movement there. Now we still got to go to downtown Disney, but I wanted to stop first at Mickey and Friends parking structure. This is the third site where we have action. Nothing visible in frame right now. They're not doing anything at the Mickey and Friends parking structure, or more specifically, the Pixar Palace parking structure. But we have this new permit is for the Pixar Palace parking structure site work, 1,100 square foot or 1,180 square foot canopy, and then an 8-foot tall fence with person and vehicle gates, and then an anchor for 6 permanent magnetometers. Now, a magnetometer has several uses within the context of a parking structure, but one of those uses could be as a metal detector. Now, I'm not sure where or how they could place those. There's really no available space for 6 new metal detectors at the Pixar Palace parking structure. They've got that huge bank of them already. They're already present, and there's more than enough. They don't need more. So what they could possibly be used for is hard to say if that was the intent. But the curious thing is that they're talking about it being for a vehicle gate and for a person to go through, and there's going to be electrical and plumbing. You need electrical, obviously, for a bag check for a metal detector, but you wouldn't need plumbing necessarily. So I feel like this is separate. It could be similar to, but separate from just straight up new metal detector somewhere, new bag check type situation. What that purpose could be is kind of fascinating. Because that's not a minor thing. That's not a small action that's being described in this permit. And by the way, where is an interesting question. They are defining it as Pixar Palace as opposed to Mickey and Friends. It was discussed on Twitter that this may be related to the closure of the transportation plaza, the transportation hub at the harbor entrance, as that's related to Avatar and the Eastern Gateway. I feel like it might be too early for that, possibly. I'm not sure. Likewise, because they're talking about maybe rerouting the buses, and I just don't feel like that's a very logical thing to do. If you were to reroute the buses if you were to park at Toy Story, take the bus and have get dropped off at Mickey Friends just to take the tram back that's not going to fly. That won't work. Nobody will park at Toy Story if they do that. But what if I don't know. They're saying it's Pixar Palace. If you wanted to reroute guests, I would say just take the buses into the downtown Disney parking lot and drop them off. Wow, that doesn't work either. That doesn't work either because you've got bag check there again. Drop them off where? I don't know. This is fascinating. So I think it's too complex for this to be related to Toy Story, but it's also unknown what else it could be. Like, what urgent need are they trying to address with these new 6 magnetometers and this new 1,100 square foot? That's, by the way, 1,100 square foot is not a small space. That's the size of a 2-bedroom apartment at least. Those are like 900 square feet typically. So it's not a small space. It's a good size space. What that need that they're trying to solve here is fascinating. I hope they get to this quickly because, as always, I love a good mystery. I love a mystery, a construction mystery at the park, and my eyes and ears are going to be open for this, to be sure. Stay tuned for that. I'm fascinated. And we're going to close with some views at downtown Disney. There's Tortilla Joe's. I was educated. I've been like, why is that one structure back there still there? Guys, that's an elevator. That was the elevator from the ground floor to the second floor of Tortilla Joe's, and they're keeping that because they don't want to rebuild that elevator. Don't blame them. I don't know why they didn't want to rebuild a lot of the other parts of this building, but they tore all that down. But the elevator stays, is what Disney said. You do whatever you want to Tortilla Joe's, but the elevator stays. So there you go. That's fascinating. No changes at Earl of Sandwich. It's still scrim and scaffold. We can't see what they're doing in there. Hopefully, when that scrim and scaffold comes down, it'll mean that they're close to starting, or they will be putting up the facade of that building. ESPN Zone, kind of the same situation as it's been in. We're seeing, incremental updates to the facade, like we mentioned last week. Glass and sheathing is starting to go up there. We'll keep our eyes and ears open for that as well. And as always, we'll wrap with a summary of the opening and closing dates for any of those affected attractions or spaces at the Disneyland Resort. Great moments with Mr. Lincoln, reopening on July 17th. We're almost there. We're less than a month away now. The Tiki Room is scheduled to reopen on July 3rd, if I'm reading this. It's weird because they've got on the refurb calendar, they've got Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is closed through 7/17, but they've said that it's going to open on 7/17, so it can't be both. So normally what I do is I'll take the close date in the case of the Tiki Room, where it says the Tiki Room is going to be closed from April whatever until July 2nd, so it's going to reopen on July 3rd. I'm just saying that to cover myself. If something is if I'm wrong in any case. Matterhorn Bobsleds is closed. No reopening date as of yet. Pixie Hollow is closed. But we do have a reopening date of June 29th, closed through June 28th. Star Tours is going to close on June 30th for an indeterminate amount of time, but it does look kind of significant because it's going to be closed. It's going to be at least a month. Main Street Cinema will be closed for just 2 days on July 15th and July 16th. I wonder if that's going to be related at all to the July 17th opening of the Main Street Opera House, because those two sites are kind of connected if you think about it. Storybook Land closing on July 21st. We mentioned the permit last week. We're hoping for possibly some kind of new trellis perhaps, or some kind of shade covering in the queue space. I'm hoping. We don't know that for sure. Casey Jr. is closing on July 28th for an unknown amount of time, at least 4 or 5 days it looks like. And then Pixar Palaround closing on July 14th through the 24th, reopening on the 25th. And Redwood Creek Challenge is closing on July 21st. We have a permit for that as well, for Redwood Creek, that states miscellaneous install 2 prefab scenic trees. These are probably Villains Grove related. My guess is those trees that are lit, the Snow White scene at the very end, the very last scene you go through when the lightning strikes and the trees light up with the white light, which is, by the way, my favorite scene in the entire Villains Grove site. I believe those are prefab trees. They don't just put those lights up on regular trees. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's my guess. And then Incredicoaster is going down on July 28th. We don't have a reopening date yet, but it's going to be at least 4 or 5 days there as well. We don't know what the refurb is. We don't know why or how long, but look for the Incredicoaster to close on July 28th. And that, fresh baked, is this week's. What a great update this week was, man. Lots of good information, lots of fun things to talk about, lots of things that we get to keep our eyes on in the coming months and years. It's going to be an amazing time. Thanks for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And fresh baked.